Good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to TV47 Daily Report with me, Victor Moyakane. Tonight on Insight, we have something quite special for you. You see, a few months ago, something happened, something so heinous, something so tragic that it literally scarred our very soul as a nation. We're talking about the spate of murders on our sisters, our wives, our children, and our relatives. And tonight, for the first time, the family of the late Rita Waeni is speaking to the media, enduring the glare of the cameras, bearing their very souls for you and I to listen to. For the first time, from the home of Untold Stories and on Insight tonight, we have our very, very own, we call him Jicho Lawala, who brings you the touching, the moving, the heartbreaking, the despicable and diabolical story of the murder of Rita Waeni. All that and so much more after the news. But first, here's a glimpse of what else we have in store for you this evening on our bulletin. At least 2,155 schools may not reopen for the second term on Monday, despite President William Ruto's order on resumption of learning.
Ningependa kutangaza ya kwamba shule zetu zote za Kenya zitafunguliwa Jumatatu ijayo.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua attends the memorial service of Mai Mahiu flood victims.
Tafadhali watu wetu, mimi namuomba, hata kama serikali inasaidia, hata wewe uchunge maisha yako.
And in a chilling revelation, TV47 unearths new, harrowing details, shedding light on the darkness that shrouded Rita Waeni's final moments. And as is our custom on Insight tonight, we will be seeking your insight on the stories in that very blockbuster piece that we shall be airing a little bit later. And to that, the SMS line is on your screen right now. The WhatsApp number is going to be on your screen on the lower thirds throughout the entire process. And the phone lines will be open. We will play you a snippet of it. And afterwards, you will be able to call in and express exactly what your sentiments are, your views and reviews on the news. And to help you along do this news is, of course, the great Rhoda Nyamai. Shall we begin? After President William Ruto gave a directive to students to return to school on Monday next week, Education CS Ezekiel Machogu on Thursday conducted visits to various schools, of course with the plan of assessing the situation, starting with Nairobi County. The CS revealing that 9 out of 10 schools are expected to reopen by next week. Ruga Eval has more details. And we shall be bringing you that story as we proceed. But in the interim, as well as just under this same umbrella subject of schools reopening, as schools gear up to reopen on Monday, a sense of apprehension grips many, many parents. This is something that a lot of you are feeling, and a lot of parents have, their worries amplified by the grim reality that certain schools just may not be able to reopen, with those schools being the epicenter of the flooding. We shall be bringing you our coverage on this subject and much, much more. But in the meantime, talk to us. Where are you watching us from? Are you confident that the schools in your area are going to be able to open? Let us know. Send in your feedback. The SMS line is at the top corner, or at the bottom corner of your screen right now. The WhatsApp line is on. Send in your feedback. I will sample it live and direct on air. Tell us where you're watching us from. Are the schools in your area ready to reopen in just 4 days' time? Are the schools in your area, matter of fact, make that 3 days' time. Are the schools in your area ready to be open in 3 days' time? Let me know. We'll be right back.
safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus nikoniwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee, soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue mpaka nimetoa hivi.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field. Sijajua bado.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30 kuendelea.
Join us on a journey through the concrete jungles and rising skylines, where every beam, every nail tells a story of progress and vision.
In every aspect of life, you know, you have to look at several dynamics.
From groundbreaking,
Nowadays with the tech, you can check on different websites or you check online and you can see some inspiration. So at least that one would be a direction already. I'll know like what kind of style you're going for.
to finishing touches, witness the dedication of the hard-working teams who bring these ambitious dreams to reality. The Realtor, Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus nikoniwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee, soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue mpaka nimetoa hivi.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field. Sijajua bado.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30 kuendelea.
Join us on a journey through the concrete jungles and rising skylines, where every beam, every nail tells a story of progress and vision.
In every aspect of life, you know, you have to look at several dynamics.
From groundbreaking,
Nowadays with the tech, you can check on different websites or you check online and you can see some inspiration. So at least that one would be a direction already. I'll know like what kind of style you're going for.
to finishing touches, witness the dedication of the hard-working teams who bring these ambitious dreams to reality. The Realtor, Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m.
Welcome back. If you're joining us right now, this is the Daily Report with me, Victor Muyakane. Now, a number of you have been sending in your feedback about whether or not the school reopening date is practical. We're hearing a number of you say that some of the schools in your area are not ready. We shall be keeping an eye on that and letting you know what's happening as we proceed. But let's have a look at another major story. And just a day after the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union called off the 56-day nationwide doctor strike, questions abound as to what transpired and who brokered the deal between the medics and the government. And as Elizabeth Etiano now reports, there are fears over a possible split in the doctors' union.
From this to this. A very drastic shift and change of stance within hours is what many are trying to piece together. Just what transpired between Wednesday 12 p.m. when KMPDU officials posted this video that the strike would go on, and around 5 p.m. when the medics signed a return to work formula calling off this doctor strike. The question being, just why did the doctors' union give in despite their demands not being met? Top on the list being the payment of medical interns who will now have to wait for 60 days as negotiations continue. A source has since intimated to TV47 that the deal was signed after two renowned legislators from the Rift Valley intervened on the matter. KMPDU, through its Secretary General Dr. Davji Atela, has told TV47 that they were simply complying with the court-mediated negotiation and that they signed the return to work formula as the government has shown commitment. Elsewhere, various health unions, including that of clinicians and medical laboratory officers, have commended KMPDU for finally striking a deal with the government.
They have had a lot of sittings discussing about their CBA. It is their right because this is something that has been there since 2017. We are very happy that eventually yesterday they came up to an agreement.
DU has a right to call off their strike. They are engaged and they agreed. So if they agreed, then let them call off the strike.
However, the clinicians have maintained that their strike is still on until their demands are met.
The cholera issues that already there is a cholera outbreak. I think we feel that it is a high time that any sensible government must be able to be reasoned enough to address those issues and ensure that healthcare workers are fully back to work.
As the dust settles on the whirlwind of negotiations, the lingering question on everyone's lips remains, did the 56-day nationwide doctor strike ultimately yield tangible results, or was it merely a temporary reprieve in the ongoing battle for healthcare justice? Elizabeth Atieno, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, amidst, of course, all this that is happening, we shall be keeping you updated on all the news as and when it happens. In the meantime, I remember I asked you, are the schools in your area open? Are they ready to actually admit students? And I can see some of you have already sent in your feedback. Somebody's watching from Makueni County in Boni West. You say the schools will be opened on Monday. Teresa from K South, you say schools seem to be ready, so the learners in K South will resume on Monday, God willing. And somebody also from Kericho County says all schools are okay and shule zifunguliwe. Let's keep talking. Let me know where you're watching from and what's the state of the schools in your area as we proceed. In other news, the African continent has been painted negatively as a region of diseases, poverty, conflict, crisis, and challenges. And with the emergence of social media, the negative images strongly impact investor confidence. It also scares capital. It also raises the risk profiles of these countries. Now, according to the president of Africa Development Bank, Dr. Akiwumi Adesina, this scares away investors at a time when we badly need them. As Paul Kirobi reports, the African continent is striving hard to achieve its goals and objective, partly through investment. Let's have a look.
Africa is one of the regions where a majority of people work tirelessly, at least to ensure they are part of the development process that helps in achieving the dreams and vision of its people. This is seen as one of the efforts that has helped the continent grow very fast. However, its fast growth seems to be watered down by the rapid growth of social media that paints the region negatively. This scares away investors.
Negative imagery strongly impacts investor confidence, scares away capital from the continent, raises the risk profiles of countries, and worse, contributes to the so-called Africa risk premium, that makes the cost of capital for investment in Africa 3 to 4 times higher than in other parts.
This despite the efforts Africa is making in fulfilling its objective and development goals. Despite the challenges facing the global economy, Africa posted a growth rate of 3.2% in 2023, which was above the global average of 3%, showing resilience amid multiple crises in the world, from geopolitical risk, climate change, global inflation, disruption of supply chains, and rising debt challenges. A close look at the yields on bonds issued by African countries and countries in Latin America for the same credit rating. The one in Africa pays 1.1% interest rate, higher than those in Latin America. So this year, Africa will pay $74 billion in loan service payments, a rise from $17 billion in 2010. The African Development Bank Africa Economic Outlook 2023 shows that 11 out of the 20 fastest growing economies in the world are in Africa. The African Development Bank has promised to uplift Africa so as to attain its objectives, mission and goals. Paul Kirobi, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, as schools gear up to reopen on Monday, a sense of apprehension grips many parents. Their worries amplified by the grim reality of certain schools being epicenters of the ongoing floods in the country. With the specter of safety haunting their thoughts, these parents voice grave concerns regarding the well-being of their children, particularly in those educational institutions ravaged by recent adversities. Sheila Chalangat now reports. We apologize for that. We shall be bringing you that story in no time. But in the meantime, Madari residents who are living near the riverbanks will now have to spend the night outside, following the government's forceful evacuation and demolition of all structures in that area, including their houses. The residents are now accusing the government of not issuing a long notice, or rather long enough notice. Our reporter Nelson Mareza with more.
This is the exact daunting picture you'll encounter when you visit Madari Area 1. Residents are trying to salvage what is left of their homes following the forceful evacuation of people here.
Hizi nyumba saizi zinabomolewa. Mimi nimezaliwa hii mtaa. Nimepata hizi nyumba hapa. Mvua inanyesha, imeaffect watu, ni ukweli hatukatai. Watu wanafaa kutolewa karibu na river, but tunafaa kuconsider hizi ni mali za wenyewe, hizi ni properties. The aftermath of the demolition have now left many residents distraught and stranded, especially those living near the riverbanks, not knowing the next step to take.
Tunataka serikali tujali, kwa sababu venye walisema tubomolewe nyumba zetu, wangetupatia mahali pa kukaa tukingojanga venye tunaweza jisaidia. Na sasa hatuna usaidizi.
Hakuna vile tutafanya. Serikali atusaidii. Wanakuja hapa, wanabomoa nyumba, hakuna pesa.
This demolition follows the government order asking residents to leave, especially those living in flood risk areas, a situation which has left many residents at a crossroad.
Kwa mama wako hapa, mtu ana vitu zake kwa nyumba, ako hapa ajua ataanzia wapi, ataenda wapi. Na tu azumekaa hapa.
Residents are now estimating losses through destruction of property, while blaming the government for not issuing a long-term notice for them to move, a scenario which has subjected them into a dire situation.
Chifu anakuja na kuambia nimekupatia 2 hours wahame. Unaweza kama na 2 hours surely. 2 hours wahame. Vijana wengi huko kwa nyumba wanaweza kurudi kwa kitupa nje.
Imebomolewa na sina mahali pa kuenda. Tunaishi hapa kwa barabara, manake hakuna mtu anatujali. Tulikuwa tunafikiria serikali inasema tutoke pale chini, wako na njia ya kutusaidia. Hatujaona tukisaidika.
With schools set to reopen on Monday next week, students' future remain uncertain, hence calling for government intervention before the situation worsens.
Tumekaa hivi. Watoto pia wanaenda shule on Monday. Hakuna vile tutafanya. School fees pia ile tulikuwa nayo imeenda zote. Imeibiwa na watu. Hakuna vile tutafanya.
Nelson Mwareza, TV47, Nairobi.
Now let me give you some information about Kenya. Apparently, our country is yet to match up the savings contributions in our social security. However, the recently launched strategic plan of 2023 to 2027 seeks to cure that gap, even as Kenyans hope for better days in future. George Maringa tells us exactly what this is all about.
That Kenya is lagging behind in saving up for the future is not a secret. Add sentiments from the famous Gen Z generation and you know that something needs to be done.
As Gen Zs, we don't work to get money to cater for the basic needs. We work to make sure that we have money to enjoy.
To enjoy?
Yeah.
Tanzania leads with the highest contribution to retirement savings, requiring a 10% savings of one's gross earnings, with the employer matching it. Similarly, Uganda mandates a 5% individual saving matched by a 10% employer contribution, while in Rwanda, the individual contribution is 5%, with the employer adding 3%.
If we drive ourselves into the corner where we are just a consumption society, a consuming society, without considering savings, we will land into serious trouble.
We will continue to count on you as we work towards growing the fund and expanding social security to the informal sector.
Data from NSSF has revealed that over 350 billion Kenya shillings was contributed by Kenyans in form of pension. However, thousands of retirees were struggling to survive once they cease working. NSSF is seeking to grow its fund value to unprecedented heights, reaching a milestone of 1 trillion shillings.
Many people are not very comfortable in putting aside now for tomorrow. So I would say the saving culture is all-time low.
We now do an average of 12 days. We brought it from around 3 months. We are now on average doing between 10 and 15 days. With automation, digitization, and all these processes combined in this strategic plan, we should be able to move benefits turnaround time to basically within a day.
According to NSSF, at least 84% of Kenyans lack social security. 1.2 million elderly Kenyans sleep without eating any food because they cannot afford it. At the same time, at least 800,000 elderly Kenyans live alone and lonely with no one to help them out.
Mi ningependa kusave na hiyo NSSF juu hiyo NSSF ni ya government. So hapo unaona nini yako iko na security poa.
Okay, mimi na embrace saving ya NSSF. But kwa maoni yangu mimi naona ina determine position yenye huko.
Mimi kwangu kuna siku nilienda huko nikaelezewa mambo na kusave na miaka yenye nitasave niweze kupata hizo pesa na interest ama kenye nitapata after kusave hiyo pesa.
While NSSF is looking to be the most reliable social security provider, it remains a collective effort that involves Kenyans if the statistics are to improve. George Maringa, TV47, Nairobi.
Tonight, Azimio coalition leader Raila Odinga is intensifying his campaign for the African Union Commission chairmanship after meeting 5 heads of state in Nairobi in the just concluded African Union Fertilizer and Health Soil Summit at the KICC here in Nairobi. The former Prime Minister, who was invited to the event by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, capitalized on the summit in what his office said was meant to create rapport with African leaders in his ongoing continental lobbying for the African Union chairmanship.
The just concluded African Union Summit on Fertilizer and Soil Health here in Nairobi gave Azimio leader Raila Odinga the perfect opportunity to cement his bid for the African Union Commission chairperson post. Odinga, who was invited to the summit by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, met President William Ruto, who introduced him to the 5 African leaders present. Odinga's office said Thursday's engagement with the heads of state was nothing substantive, but to create rapport and make contacts, something his office said went well. Thursday's engagement comes in the backdrop of an African Union notification to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, inviting Kenya to submit Odinga's nomination, which include a CV and a short write-up on his mission to address Africa's challenges by the 6th of August this year. Kenya, which is part of the Eastern region, is facing opposition from its EAC counterparts, Djibouti and Somalia, who have fronted their candidates, Mohamed Yusuf and Fozia Adam respectively, for the chairperson post, an issue Nairobi has taken up. Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Korir Sing'oei, has sounded positive on Kenya's engagement with Somalia to have Somalia stand down its candidate. Odinga has already visited Uganda, Tanzania, and Rwanda to secure the home block first, as diplomatic engagements continue to prevail upon Somalia and Djibouti, who are also members of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. Apul Kamau, TV47.
Now, each year, on the 9th of May, the European Union delegation in Kenya commemorates Europe Day. This year's celebrations began in March with the inaugural Europe Day Kenya football tournament. The boys and girls under-18 competition will traverse 4 counties before the national finals are held at the Ulinzi Sports Complex on the 17th of this month. Tony Kwalanda has been covering these matches and has the latest updates.
Happy Europe Day. Every year, the European Union delegation in Kenya marks this Peace and Unity Day.
It sort of marks the beginning of the European integration in Europe, the effort to make sure that we never again have war in Europe. I think this is also relevant for other countries, including Kenya.
This year, celebrations kicked off in March with the inaugural Europe Day Kenya football tournament. The under-18 boys and girls competition will be held in 4 counties before the national finals are held at Ulinzi Sports Complex on 17th of this month.
We want to make this a standard feature in the sports agenda of Kenya. I just need to find the money so we can extend it to all 47 counties.
Marsabit, Homa Bay and Kilifi counties have already produced teams for the grand finale. Nairobi County will add 2 more squads to the list after this weekend's preliminaries, which will be held at Upper Hill High School. The 8 girls teams include Dagoretti Mixed, Olympic, Kibera, Huruma, Beth Mugo, Mwangaza, Makongeni, and Our Lady of Fatima. The boys category comprises of Dagoretti, Highway, Brown Hill, hosts Upper Hill, Jamuhuri, Aquinas, Raila Educational, and Githurai Secondary.
You have wonderful players here, and we wanted to reach out to the youth. We wanted to engage them. We wanted to also tell them the story about the European Union.
The overall winners will fly to Romania later this year for a training camp, besides getting other prizes. Runners-up will also undergo specialized training with local and international clubs. Happy Europe Day. Tony Kwalanda, TV47 Sports.
Right, and on that note, we want to take a bit of a breather. When we come back, it's that all expected and very much anticipated story that I told you about. From the home of Untold Stories is the first ever edition of Crimes Untold, from the mind and work of Francis Wala. We'll be right back. But just before we go, I can see a lot of you have sent in your feedback. When we come back, we're shifting gears to a whole other direction. But I can see that Leonard, watching from Eastleigh, says schools are ready to start over there. Thomas Onunda from Makueni County in Boni West says the schools are